Welcome to Friday I'm in Bed.
Podcast for midlife women living their best life, but in bed by 10.
We're here to chat and sometimes rant about the news of the week and how it affects us and you.
I'm Kate, a 53-year-old postmenopausal mum of two, whose happy place is at the front of a very loud gig, especially one that ends early.
I'm Gem, I'm 46 years old. I love running and cocktails and I'm child-free, but I am a devoted mum to two very spoilt pug babies. But before we begin, we will occasionally be discussing sensitive topics, but we will always notify you in advance of each section. And we can add support group websites and phone numbers that will help you in the show notes.
Please do like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and do leave us a comment. We love to chat, as you can probably tell. This week on Friday I'm in Bed, we're asking the big questions. What's going to be embarrassing in 2026? After discovering that having a boyfriend was apparently embarrassing in 25, we'll be discussing the Independent's predictions for the year ahead. Apparently, influencers, chatting about Manjaro and having a labubu are just a few items on the list.
We're also digging into the headlines around too posh to push and the growing number of women choosing C-sections and saying, clearly, that bodily autonomy isn't a trend and does not need anyone's approval.
And finally, we're talking rage bait. Why it works, why it's everywhere, and whether we like it, or just keep falling for it anyway. Opinions incoming. Let's get into it. Hi, Gem. Happy New Year. No, quite. It's New Year's Eve.
I think, right, Kate, Happy New Year. You're allowed to say Happy New Year on New Year's Eve. It's fine.
All right, okay. What are you doing tonight?
Tonight, as little as possible. I have special New Year's Eve pajamas that are green velvet with sparkly bits on, and I will be wearing those and sitting by the fire because I stopped going out on New Year's Eve a long time ago. However, after we've recorded this, I am going to go for cocktails and some lunch. So it's not all boredom and old lady couchness. Don't worry. What about you? Have you got New Year's Eve plans?
We only made plans last night. None of our friends are around. Some of them have moved away and stuff. And we were going to stay in. And then late last night, I arranged to go to one of my closest friends who I grew up with. She was my best friend as a teenager. And we're going to hers for Vietnamese food. And because I am a mum taxi, I am picking up the boy and his girlfriend at 2:00 in the morning on the way home.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what New Year's Eve is for when you're a mum, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, it's when they realise how much a taxi costs and that there aren't any available. And I will be driving past. I'll be driving past there anyway, so all good.
Yeah,
so,
I will probably be in bed by 5 past midnight, I reckon.
Well, let's get into it. We've got lots to talk about.
Okay. Actually, I was going to ask you about New Year's resolutions.
Oh, sorry, we won't get into it yet then. New Year's resolutions. I do have some. I'm into New Year's resolutions. I think it's kind of cool these days to not have them because obviously it's linked to changing yourself all the time, which we don't, and pressure. But I actually like having the kind of first of the year as a starting point. I'm good when there's a start. My resolutions are to get strong because I've lost such a lot of strength in my body since my surgery. I want to save money and declutter. I'm on a real mission to save as much money as possible next year and to stop spending. My third one, I've got 4. My third one is to support my kids' GCSE year, going to university year. So there's a lot of stuff there. And from a work perspective, I just want to carry on supporting as many women as possible to live their best life in their 50s. So I've kind of got 4. What about you?
Well, I stopped making New Year's resolutions years ago when that kind of I am going to be a completely different person. I mean, I am not averse to that. I do love that. I love a new notebook. It's going to change my life. But to be honest, that's pretty much every Monday morning is New Year to me. Like this week, I am going to be a perfect human being. However, that doesn't mean I don't have goals for the year ahead. Strong is one of mine as well. I need to get some strengths back. Definitely. Yeah. And that decluttering thing too. That's definitely going to happen. But it was also going to happen in November. So,
well, me being me is going to make a series on my savings and decluttering. And I've got a whole series planned so that I can rock up every week and talk about it. Because I think it's the only way I can keep myself accountable is to make content about it.
Because then you have to do it. Yeah. See, that's the thing. So people always to me, why do you always make the things you like doing your job? Because then I have to do them.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say it for the second time. We've got lots to talk about. Let's get
We
into
have.
it.
Okay, so I want to talk about trends, I guess. But the article that sparked this in me was a recent one in the Independent that started with forget having a boyfriend being embarrassing, which was something that was apparently embarrassing this year, which I am quite interested about and I'll bring up in a sec anyway, but also went on to list a whole load of other things that are going to be embarrassing this year. So they were influencers, which is fun for the people who that's their job, but I don't know if that's
We can talk
the
about
kind
it.
of ones that go to Dubai on holiday and show off all the things they can't afford. Giant water bottles, ChatGPT, using ChatGPT, all reality TV other than The Traitors.
Hello? That's not going to
Talking
happen around
about
here.
Manjaro,
Relevant to you?
yeah, Labus and Kim Kardashian bombs.
Right.
Now, I have views on all of these.
Yes, let's start off with the boyfriend being embarrassing, because that was
Mhm.
the embarrassing thing of 2025, having a boyfriend. What's your take on that?
Well, as far as I could see, that was to do with influencers, right? Is that a lot of people weren't like hard launching their boyfriends on social media. They kept that space for them. And I find that very interesting because ever since my blogging days, I mean, there's been pictures of my husband on there, and I talk about him, and I talk about him as Mr. Gem, or he was Mr. Chick when I was Retro Chick. I've never made like a big fuss about making content with him and stuff like that, and you see some people who are all like coupled up and they do a lot of like, oh, this is me and my boyfriend, like kind of stuff. But I've never done that. This was like my space for talking about my things, and like that's completely different from my personal life. So I did find that quite interesting anyway. I was like, I am so ahead of the curve.
Yes, I didn't read it as that. Not that I read the article, because my feed, and maybe it's linked down to algorithm as well, is full of women saying, I actually want to be single and I reject bad dates. I reject dating or being with a man who lacks empathy or emotional maturity. And there's been a real backlash in like even wanting to date, because it's just, I'd rather be single. So I think there's been this like switch of like, I was going to say girl power then, and then I sounded like a Spice Girl fan. But that female empowerment, and actually, I'd rather be single than be with a boyfriend that treated me badly. Actually, it's embarrassing to be with a guy that treats me badly. I'm going to be single and proud. So I kind of took it as that, which I was a bit like, go girl, like if that feels. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the Vogue article was talking about that kind of like you're following someone on social media and then they start being like, oh, this is my boyf,
My
ugh,
boyf.
and like, so it's more like people are soft launching now. They're like, yeah, you'll see an
Oh.
extra hand in a picture or like something like that. And you'll be like, oh, they've got a boyfriend, rather than making this big kind of, look how loved up and coupled we are. They're
I
kind of
think
keeping it off their feeds.
Yeah, there's definitely that. And I've seen even women in the midlife or in the 50s space, had they've left their husband and they've talked about that. And that can be a positive or negative thing depending on your relationship. And then they are still soft launching. So there's like, here I am in Paris. I'm just suddenly in Paris or Morocco
No
or wherever.
reason.
And there's 2 wine glasses. And I
Mm.
think it's engagement baiting. We're going to talk about rage baiting later, but engagement baiting. So everyone goes,
Ew.
oh, who's the other glass belong to? And then you don't answer. So you get better engagement and you're all coy and
Oh
secretive.
yeah, I
And
mean that is an interesting way of looking at it, like engagement baiting, I guess, because like yeah, because I kind of saw it as that thing with people like if they're like, oh, but this relationship may not last, and then I'm going to have to hard launch another one.
oh, no,
Ugh.
I think with the influencers, everything is about getting as many, comments as possible. So if you kind of have the hand, I'm holding a hand. Oh, look what somebody bought me, a nice ring. Not an engagement ring, just a
What
nice ring.
does it matter if being an influencer is going to be so embarrassing this year?
Well, we'll come on to that in a minute. And also, what is an influencer? Because I'm
That
somebody
was
that
the
makes
exact question I was going to ask.
I
So
know I am.
how do you define an influencer then?
Well, it's somebody that has influence because it's an influencer. And, people describe me as an influencer because I work with brands and I sell products a lot online. And what's interesting is I rejected the term influencer for a long time. I pushed away from it. I'm not an influencer. I'm a content creator, or I am a blogger, or I'm an editor, or I'm a marketing consultant. I mean, I am all of those things. I would not use that word influencer. And then at some point, I think it was actually whilst I'd had my surgery, I had a light bulb moment that I am, and I need to stop hiding from that word, because that is what I do. And I need to lean into it because it's what I do. However, the word makes me cringe so much.
I feel like, so the word influencer to me, when I hear influencer, it conjures up this kind of matching gym sets and the giant water bottle. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like a life that's so carefully curated to within an inch that you can't, there's no authenticity. I feel like the word influencer carries with it like a lack of authenticity. And I don't know who these people are that are being influenced by people that aren't really authentic, because I kind of feel like, I don't care. You're selling that because someone's paying you. Like,
I think that's an age thing though as well, because to me, the really glossy influencers, as you've described them, so they're off to Dubai and everything is curated with an inch of its life. They're all very young. They're in their 20s generally. And I think they're influencing other women or men, because there's male influencers in their 20s. I think that's why I rejected the term for so long, because it just gives you the ick, particularly as a grown-ass woman. It's like, but I do make money from promoting brands. That's how I earn the lion's share of my cash. So therefore, I am. But one of the things I'm really, really, it's important to me is to be real. And actually, I am messy. So I lean into the messy, because we ain't going to get perfectly curated around here.
The amount of years I spent being do you remember blogging in the early noughties when it was all the photos were I'm looking wistful?
Yeah. I do sometimes do that. Generally, when my skin's really bad or my hair looks terrible, and I just kind of go, yes, I'm just looking over here in the background. And there's normally not because I'm trying to look wistful. I'm just trying to hide the fact that I just feel I haven't got any makeup on or something. But yeah, so influencers are embarrassing. And I believe it's look at my Shein haul where I've got thousands and thousands of things. That whole kind of overconsumption, lack of authenticity, and also being all the same. Because there is a uniform. They like beige, don't they?
Creamy, yeah, everything. And it was cream and grey and yeah. Are you allowed to be an influencer if you wear colours?
Well, you are. You're allowed to do whatever you like. The whole embarrassing thing, I think, is the curated thing. But it's interesting, as I said, I've been embarrassed. Embarrassed is possibly not the right word. The ick. And it's well, brands contact me to work with me because they want me to promote their products. So by nature, that means I am one.
They want you to influence people.
The other thing is making sure you influence for good as well. So your influence isn't just buy this product. It could be about women's rights. It could be about raising money. Sorry?
Voting.
Going
if
for
I was ever going to influence anyone, it's always whenever there's election, I'm go and vote.
Absolutely. But then go for your mammogram. We talked in a previous podcast about how I vlogged my first mammogram. And again, you could eye roll and say that's very embarrassing, but it was done to say to everybody, this is important, look after your health, get yourself checked out. So I think if you're influencing for good as well, that helps. And I think a lot of the influencers that people are referring to, it's literally, I'm on another jet to Dubai. And we also know that a lot of them aren't on private jets and things. You can hire a private jet for an hour. It's not a private jet. Yeah, it's a studio that looks like a private jet. And people hire that to pretend they're on a private jet. I mean, that is crazy.
Absolutely. I feel like the overall vibe of this list, I was just having a look at why they hate giant water bottles.
Yes, so the giant water bottle, is that linked to the influencer and the giant water bottle?
It's just saying, they call it deranged because they're massive, and that it's it's no longer chic or something. I feel like a lot of the things in the list are related to that idea of it being like of that general overconsumption, glossy finish kind of thing. Like the Brazilian butt lifts to have your Kim Kardashian bum, though I did note we are
We're
making
not doing
women's
that.
bodies a fashion trend again.
And also, well, we'll come on to that one. Well, that one doesn't work because Brazilian butt lifts have been out of fashion for ages. I mean, even Kim has reduced, has removed
Mm.
it. And we know that the trend, which should not be a trend because women's bodies aren't trends, is not for mega curves. So that one doesn't
That's
even make sense to me of being on the list.
exactly.
But
But
giant
the
water bottles.
boo-boos.
Oh, I was going to say giant water bottles. Like, let's water bottles. This is ridiculous. Because surely we should be drinking water. And who cares what people are drinking? And those big water bottles, like, we use them when, like, well, they don't go to football anymore. When my daughter went to football, we had a giant water bottle and I took a giant water bottle because then I didn't need to take 3 water bottles. Like,
See, that's what I've got, one of those massive, like, jug ones with a handle, like,
Oh.
like, what are they called? Like
Stanley
container type
cups.
thing. It's not a Stanley cup. It's one of the ones that's got a screw top and, like, it's just a big chunky water bottle. I feel like what they're talking about is the Stanley cups. And again, maybe it's that kind of where you carry it for the look, like.
You do. Or are they simply rage baiting? Which we're going to come on to the word rage baiting later in the podcast. But I feel like this article is rage baiting because how can water bottles, whatever the size, be
And
embarrassing?
bums.
Yeah. So
Well,
and then Labubus.
yeah. See, are there any Labubus in your house? No, me, me either.
They're really expensive, but also they're tat. And my kids don't want bag charms. Well, my daughter doesn't want a bag charm. Um, But also there is the trend in 2025 where people like Olivia Atwood, for example, opening like because you don't know what Labubu's in each box, and she was just
Mm.
buying like hundreds and hundreds of Labubus to get a certain one. And I remember looking at it thinking, have we gone crazy? Because this is like a little doll.
Mm. And it's the overconsumption again, because now you've got hundreds of Labu, I can't even say it, Labubus, and like 6 of them are the same. Like,
I know,
what
and
are
I
you going
think
to do with them? Off to landfill with you.
And it's realizing that it's micro trends, isn't it? Because you see it, and then it was the same with the Stanley Cup. You saw it, and you might have gone, "Oh, that's cool." Well, I wouldn't have never said a Labubu was cool. I might have gone, "Oh, Stanley Cup, that's quite nice." Quite like that, quite practical. And then whoosh, like within a week, everybody had one, and the entire internet was full of it. And it's like knowing that that's a micro trend. Pull away from it because it will be embarrassing shortly, and then suddenly you'll go from being super cool on day 1 to being really naff on day 20. Like it's
We talked about trend cycles on Boxing Day, didn't we? And how they're moving faster and faster and faster with, and I think the word I was looking for was immediacy of the
Oh.
internet. I spent a lot of time saying instant and to instantness, but I think it was immediacy. Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, to
I
sum up
think
our
it's those,
house.
those trend cycles. Yeah. So maybe these things won't be embarrassing in 2026. They'll be embarrassing in January and then they'll be back in by December.
Yeah. I got sent a Stanley Cup by a PR agency, and it was right at the beginning, and I was like, well, I thought it was at the beginning, but it wasn't. And I was like, look what I've been that was sent to my kids. I was really like excited, and they both turned around and went, "No, mum, that is basic Insta whatever."
Yeah.
I think is what they
Yeah.
said.
It's
And
the
I was like,
matching.
"Oh."
Yeah. Matching sets, Stanley Cup, doing this maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's my millennial coming through. Like,
What else was on the list? Talking about Manjaro.
yes. I'm not going to say anything about that because I'll be cringe and unfashionable.
Why is that on the list? That's funny, isn't it? Because I'm sure I've read articles about women that don't say they're on Manjaro and then they've just had this rapid weight loss and everybody, it's almost like it's cool to say you're not on it or whatever. I don't know. There's like, why is it uncool to talk about it when why shouldn't we talk about it? It just seems like where's that one come from?
The article kind of it starts talking about like the darker side of the jabs.
Okay.
But the darker side of the jabs seems to be, I mean, obviously some people get side effects. Some people lose weight too quickly and do things like lose their hair. There's things that we've talked about in the past, such as like the backstreet jabs and things that are
Yeah.
putting people's like lives in danger. There's the fact that, you know, if people come off the drugs completely, some people will regain all the weight. But I don't know why that's again, what I talked about before with mental was that this is a medication that, you know, shouldn't be, it's not a trend. Like, it shouldn't be a trend. It's a medication that should be used for people that need it, to provide the benefits that it provides. And again, if you're a person that will regain the weight when you come off of it, maybe it's a medication you might have to take for your whole life in like lower doses, or, you know, it's one of those things that, like, what was the reasons that you gained weight? What was the reasons you wanted to lose weight? Was it a health thing? If it's all about getting in a frock, maybe that's the embarrassing bit. Like,
I don't know. It seems an odd thing to have on the list next to Labubus. I feel like actually there's going to be people listening to this not even knowing what a Labubu is.
yeah.
Go Google it. A little
Yeah,
fluffy,
I was going to say,
ugly
Google
thing.
it, because they're tiny little ugly teddy bears. They do have weird teeth.
And you put them on your bags like a bag charm. So
Mm.
you walk around as a adult, I have to say, and obviously I'm very much you could do what you like, wear what you want. But adults walking around with kind of ugly teddy bears in
That's
mass.
not what bothers me. It's the obsession that bothers me, I think, the overconsumption of like getting them and then not knowing what's in there. I think that's probably what bothers me more, because I mean, I would be perfectly happy to walk around with an ugly teddy bear attached to my handbag.
Oh, so yeah, well, yes.
I'm
I
just
don't
that
know.
kind of person. I don't think I've grown up properly.
So this list, is it real? Is it just rage baiting? Is there anything
I
we can
think,
take?
I mean, obviously, like anything of this, it's an opinion piece, and this is what this person, I don't know how cool this person is that's decided these are the lists. So maybe they're just not a cool person, and we're just going to be like super, super cool with our Labubus and our Stanley Cups and our reality TV. I don't know.
Oh
Should we
yes.
ask?
Oh,
It was
yes, let's
reality
do
TV.
more.
Yeah, apart from the traitors, apparently. And asking ChatGPT anything.
So let's start with reality TV, apart from The Traitors. Now, obviously, The Traitors is a massive hit, and it's kind of the cool one, or no, not the cool one, it's not the intellectual one to like, I think, because it's about catching people out and it's about, yeah, behaviours. But you're telling me people aren't going to watch Married at First Sight Australia that starts in January? I like,
I was going to say, what reality TV do you watch? And then I remembered, yes, Married at
like,
First.
honestly, Married at First Sight will still have huge viewing figures. Love Island, whether you like it or not, will still have huge viewing
Yeah.
figures. Maybe not with my demographic, maybe with a different demographic. But the point is there are, I'm a Celebrity did still have high viewing. Strictly, these shows, they still, but I suppose it's naff. It's all about, it's naff to say you like Married at First Sight, where I'm like, but I do like it because I find it really interesting to watch how people behave, and how they interact and how things unfold. And it's a bit like, when I was at school, there was loads of drama going on. Obviously, not always great drama. But now I live at home working as a 53-year-old woman. There's not a lot of drama. So it kind of,
Where do you get your drama from?
just a bit of drama. But I don't know if potentially it's always been naff. But
Well,
why
that's
naff?
the thing, is I think it has always been naff. It's like your trash TV, isn't it? And the guilty pleasures kind of thing. See, I always think, I don't watch reality TV because I don't watch Love Island, I don't watch Married at First Sight. And then I remember that the trash TV that I do watch is things like Below Decks, reality TV. Selling Sunset, love it. Absolutely reality TV.
Very much so.
Even Drag Race,
No,
reality TV. Yeah. So I do watch reality TV. That's a lie. I don't watch a lot of the like really big ones like Love Island. Never seen it. Married at First Sight. Never seen it. But yeah, if I'm bored, I'll happily go through Netflix looking for people selling expensive houses, basically.
yeah, potentially that. I feel like it's just a bit of a snobby take to put on the list.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's not about being naff. I think it's about, you're just not as clever if you watch it or something. You're a bit.
We watch The Traitors. That's for clever people. But yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We
Yeah.
can
If you
ignore that.
just want some mental chewing gum, then you're naff.
Exactly. And then ChatGPT, which is ridiculous because the whole world, is using AI. And is it just ChatGPT or is it AI? And actually, it's a great search engine. If you want, the top 10, I know, trends of 25, that are going to
Hey,
be
we
naff
should ask
next
it.
year, ChatGPT will tell you quickly, whereas they might not get that on Google. But apparently it's
Mhm.
now enough to use ChatGPT, or is it to hide that you're using it or to admit?
I think it's enough to admit you're using it, which is even worse, isn't it? Because then that's like everyone's still gonna use it, but they're gonna
Lie.
now.
But
It
because
says, okay, let's see what they said was wrong with it. Fessing up to consulting ChatGPT, especially when you could have just Googled, or let's face it, engaged your brain for 5 minutes, is
but
going to become
Google
a
is the
little
same. It's
painful.
Google is still a robot in a computer.
Google is using AI basically to interpret what you've put in.
Exactly. So Google is using AI, but before it didn't, I think we have to remember that Google isn't a man sitting answering all your questions. It's
Just gonna
still
go and check the library.
encyclopedia and look it up. It's still a
Mm.
program. It's still used like robot technology. I don't, without knowing the ins and outs. So it's not like Google is good and ChatGPT is bad. It's still literally robots telling you the answers.
So, is there anything on that list that you're going to not do in 2026 on the basis that it's embarrassing? Remember, not that you're not doing already, but on the basis that the Independent says it's embarrassing.
Because, like, it's a water bottle, for God's sake. I mean, it's like, get a grip. To be fair, I hardly ever take water out with me and always forget. So actually having a water bottle itself would be good, would be a good start. No, I don't like lists like that because although some of them I already agree with, but I'll carry on being me.
Yeah. I feel in a way almost more inclined to do all those things because I am a bloody minded human being who's like, if someone
Um,
says, oh, that's not cool anymore, then I'm like, ha, watch me. I'm going to do it
yeah.
anyway.
So I expect lots of ugly bears hanging off you within a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. Well, they'll be cheaper now because they're not cool anymore. So our list of things that aren't cool in 2026, the Friday I'm in bed list of things that aren't cool in 2026 is pretending to be someone you're not and overconsumption.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Solved.
Now, I want to talk about an article or multiple articles that came out before Christmas around the concept of women in the UK being too posh to push. Basically, the stats have come out for C-sections, and 42% of births in the UK are via C-section. And back in like 5 years ago, it was 29%. So it's jumped up significantly. And obviously, this was revealed, and then the media jumped on it. And instead of saying, this is interesting, women are choosing or being told to have more C-sections, it's risen. I wonder why. They've jumped straight to that we're lazy and we are too posh to push. And what's many things have infuriated me about this. I mean, first of all, let's just put it out there. C-sections are not the easy choice because, yes, you don't have a vaginal birth, you have a cesarean section, but it's major surgery. It takes a lot longer to recover. It's a big thing. So it's not a decision that anybody takes lightly. But it was the whole too posh to push. So too posh to push was a headline in 1999 when Victoria Beckham had a C-section for reasons unknown, because it's none of our business, funnily enough. But yeah, she was too posh to push. And obviously that was a clever take on being posh spice. But here we are in 2025 with the same headline. And I am so flipping cross about this that I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, too posh to push.
The stats I saw were actually that 42% was like 23, 24.
Mm.
And that now it was actually 45%. So
Yeah.
it was like the increase that they were going on about.
And it's a big increase from 5 years ago, obviously. So it is an
when it was
increase.
in the 20%. Yeah. However, the other thing that I saw was that age played a part in that.
Yeah.
And that actually women were having children later in life, and that the older they got, the more likely they were to have a C-section.
Yes.
Which kind of makes sense because they're more likely to have women over 40, it was like nearly 60%, I think. And the older you get, the more likely you are to have like a more complex pregnancy or a more complex birth. God, say that 10 times fast.
Absolutely.
And therefore be more likely to need a C-section. So the suggestion that this was all led by people choosing a major surgery, over a vaginal birth was not necessarily true. It could have been
Absolutely.
more to do with that these C-sections were actually necessary and that we were saving the lives of mothers and babies.
Exactly.
Hooray.
And when you obviously, we don't know why Victoria Beckham had a C-section, and as I said, it's none of our business. But what I did manage to find out was she was told it would be safer for her and baby, which is the main reason why women choose to have a C-section or are told to have one. I also read that there's an increase in diabetes, increase in obesity, potentially meant that there was greater risk. But again, what I was reading was they kind of, in some of the things I read, it was almost like we don't know. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this, it could be a bit of all of this. But ultimately, women are too lazy. Like, literally.
This is, to me, the whole take on this, the minute these stats come out, is very much tied into how they treat all women's healthcare.
Yes.
Because I mean, you say it a lot, don't you? Like, if men had babies, there'd be a flap in stalls by now. Like,
Exactly. With all
like there'd have been
families.
so much research. We would be like, well, this hurts too much. We'll have to sort this out. Like, and the same they talk with it about periods. If men bled every month, we'd have solved that problem by now. The male contraceptive pill that was rejected because of the amount of side effects that it caused. And you go, oh, really? Because ours causes none at all. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, to me, it's very much tied into that whole kind of attitude that somehow women are supposed to be like earth mothers with their feet in the grass, just popping out babies one by one.
Yeah, and I think it's also that people, men, and the medical world don't want women to have bodily autonomy. Because actually, there are women that choose, that elect to have a C-section. They learn and understand the risks versus the benefits, and they make an informed choice. Many are because their first birth or a previous birth was incredibly traumatic. Not just because it hurt a little bit, which is what the kind of the kind of the feel the vibe you get from the things you read. You know, they're electing because of previous trauma, all sorts of different reasons. Yet that's not enough. You know, like, that's not good enough that you are choosing that, when actually I am a human being, I am an adult, I am going to be a mother, and I'm going through, you know, a big thing, which is labor, full stop, however it happens, and I should be allowed to make choices about my own body. But I feel like, again, back to being 2025, or 2026 when this is going out, we don't kind of we're not allowed those choices. Do you feel that? I mean, you've talked about it even with the autonomy of going to the doctor and saying, I've got a bad back, this is more, I think, you know, and it's like, no, you know, like, go away.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's that having trust in your own body and knowing what you want isn't, I mean, in the other direction, women who don't want children face exactly the same thing. I didn't want children when I was a teenager. I didn't want children in my 20s. I don't remember any time in my life that I ever wanted children. But if I never did it because I also didn't want major surgery. But there are women who've gone and asked for hysterectomies and been refused. And I also know, women who are having major health issues, things like endometriosis, who would ask for a hysterectomy and be refused on the basis that they might want children. And that kind of, or that, even worse, a potential future partner may want children.
Oh, God, well, again, but it's back to that bodily autonomy that we.
But we're not granted that understanding that we may have a feeling about what's best for our bodies, and not just our bodies, but our mental health, that it's always about someone else. So when you're having children, it's about the children, it's about the future child. You know, that comes back to even things like formula feeding and stuff, about whether there are reasons that you might make a choice which might be outside of the fact of convenience and laziness. Like, you should have that ability to make a decision that's best for you, taking into account all these other things, rather than having that decision made for you.
Yeah. And one of the things I've read, and I want to remind everybody, and I need to remind myself, because I think, you know, this stuff is so ingrained in all of us, is that it's a C-section or a natural birth. That is the terminology. So a natural birth implies, by definition, that a C-section is unnatural. So again, it's back to, if you have the unnatural birth, labor, you have somehow failed because it's unnatural. Nobody says, although I think there's people are starting to say, but it's a vaginal birth versus a C-section. And even I myself, when I was preparing for the podcast, kept saying in my head natural birth. And it's like, no, stop using those words because they're both natural. I suppose one, there is intervention, but there's intervention often in a vaginal birth. So it's kind of like, it's this terminology.
Yeah, like they use like a ventouse, forceps, all that kind of.
Exactly. And I was chatting to my daughter about this, and I want to share this because this is like proud parent moment because she's doing her GCSEs. I was ranting. I often rant. You may have noticed. I was ranting about the kind of natural, unnatural. And she went, they even talked about it in Macbeth. And I was like, what? And then I was like,
I knew I'd seen this somewhere recently.
because she was like, they even talked about it in Macbeth, because Macbeth was told that he couldn't be killed by somebody that was born from a woman. So therefore he was like, hey, I can't be killed. This is literally how she was. I can't be killed. And then he was killed by Macduff because he was untimely ripped from his mother's womb. C-section. So therefore, blah, 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 blah. But the point was, we were even calling it unnatural in Shakespeare's time. So I don't know when he wrote Macbeth, late 1700s, early 1800s-ish. That's quite a long time
No, he
ago.
was much earlier than that.
Was it?
Google it. He was like a Elizabeth.
Google it.
Elizabethan. Yeah, there you go.
Where's it? 1500.
First public performance, 1611.
Oh, I meant early 16, late 15. Got my centuries wrong. Sorry. She is also doing the Tudors. So sorry, that is, no, it is 16th century. Anyway, the point is.
Anyway, we digress.
How many centuries on, it's still classed as unnatural to have a C-section, and we still have headlines saying women are too posh, in brackets, lazy, to push. And yeah, it just made my blood boil. And I think it's a really worrying trend that is happening around women's reproduction rights and autonomy that is happening across the globe. And it's really easy to sit here and look at America, for example, and think, this stuff's happening. But our headlines are still kind of saying that you have failed because you have chosen to have a C-section.
Being a little bit more like subtle about it. I think it's one of the things that recently I've done a few bits of content about the fact that I've chosen to be child-free, because there was obviously women do have children in their 40s. And that choice was taken away from me by my stem cell transplant, which put me into medical menopause. So that choice was taken away. But I've done a few bits of content recently about the fact that I chose to be child-free, just because sometimes I think it's important to have that voice out there that you have a choice, and that you do have choices about what you do with your body, about whether you choose to have children, if you do choose to have children, how you choose to have children, where you choose to have children, and when you choose to have children. So I kind of, it's not, I've brought it up a couple of times in my past as a blogger and things like that.
Yeah.
But I've started talking about it a little bit more recently, just because I see in a lot of that kind of, I feel like there needs to be an answer to the trad wives.
Yeah.
How do trad wives give birth? Do all trad wives give birth like in a hay barn or something?
I really don't know. But then I also think the trad wives or some of this stuff is being planted in to offset women like you. And I'm saying it because that's how you're deemed by these people that are really worried. So it's like, I feel like they're plants. Do you know what I mean? To make it feel different.
No.
But
I like being that woman. I'm going to make even more noise.
Yeah, and the whole giving birth in a hay barn kind of concept. I think it even goes down to it's easy for us to say this is men that think we must do X, Y, and Z, but actually it's so ingrained in women that it's even down to, did you have a natural birth? Their wording, i.e., vaginal birth. Yes. Did you use drugs? I didn't. I went drug free. And it's almost like, what do you want? A little badge? Because,
Oh, we're back on purity again though, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's like
to be the best type of woman, you have to have experienced the whole range of these things completely naturally, without any help, without drugs, without
which I'm almost speechless in respect.
That, dear listeners, is impressive.
It's ridiculous though, isn't it? Because, if you give birth and you don't need drugs and everything is complication free, there are no complications, great. If you give birth and you need drugs because it freaking hurts, or there is a complication or it goes on too long, great. Like, it doesn't matter. As I said, you don't get a badge, do you? And
No.
your
I
children
feel there
aren't,
should be a ban.
yeah, well, just your children aren't any better off. It's just like, I don't know. It's pitting women against women. And unfortunately, we know that women do that. And they do that because they are believing all the stuff they have read throughout their entire lives, even back to 1999 when Posh Vice had
When
that
posh was
headline.
too posh to push.
Yeah, it's so ingrained that we find it really hard to let go of it. And therefore, women judge other women for choosing not to have a child, or choosing to have a C-section, or choosing loads of drugs when you do give birth. But why do we stop?
That was very eloquent, especially that last bit.
You know what I mean, though?
Again,
And it's internalized misogyny.
absolutely. And the structures of medicine, of all of that, the kind of like, there's kind of, we're talking about the kind of childbirth things specifically rather than women's healthcare specifically. There's two kind of sides to it. I think there's this kind of thing where like there was a point when there was like a medicalization of childbirth. So it was a thing that had become a medical procedure. You had to have a child in hospital lying on your back, which may not necessarily be the best position to do this in. And then there was a kind of pushback against it that I kind of saw where, things like birthing balls and home births.
A water
And
birth.
water births and doulas rather
Yeah.
than midwives, or a midwife rather than a doctor, started to become more of a way of doing things. There's like a pushback against that kind of medicalization of it. And that medicalization was very typically kind of male led. And then now it feels like we're going back in the other direction where we're kind of pushing for that medicalization again, but also still demonizing it. So
Yeah.
it's like we can't
Win.
and we just wish that there was some nuance that we could have here where you could go perfectly capable of having a child. Other women have done it. However, it's excellent that we have all of these amazing new medical things so that when something goes wrong, we don't lose mothers and babies. We can turn to these amazing medical procedures that we have invented. But also, again, there's so much, isn't there? It's just, it's good that we can turn to these things, but also there shouldn't be any shame in making a choice that's best for you and your life when those choices exist, if you're aware of all the risks. So, I mean, there's that thing, isn't there, where they say women choose to book in a C-section so that it doesn't affect their career. So, because they know when they're having a baby, and you go, well, so what? It's their career. They worked really hard for it.
And it would be great to know the exact date and time you're having your baby. It would be really convenient, particularly because we don't have a lot of maternity pay, things like that. It would be really helpful because then you know when to leave work and you can plan, our lives. Often we've got other children to look after as well. I want to pick up on, you use one word which I think is so important, and that's the word shame. And I think back to men, women. Do men feel shame? Do women feel shame? Are we supposed to feel shame? I feel like so much of this is around we are supposed to feel shame all the time. We're shamed if we do this. We're shamed if we do that. We're shamed if we do the other. We're shamed if you don't have children. You're shamed if you go back to work too early. You're shamed if you work right up until the birth. You're shamed if you have a C-section. You're shamed if you have gas and air. You're shamed if you don't. Literally, leave us alone. But where does it come from? What is the benefit to society? Because to shame women or to create a space where we feel shame whatever we choose,
I don't know. Keeps us in our place, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe that's as simple as it is. Keeps us quiet because we have all this guilt because of all this shame.
Yeah, I feel like
we can't take over the world, can we? If we're feeling all this shame,
it's quite difficult as kind of, and I know that ladette culture and all that was very problematic. And, and the Spice Girls girl power, I know there's a lot of problematicness there. But again, excellent English. I did do some English at the university. They'll be so proud of me. But it's quite sad to watch it because I did live through all of that. And I did live through all of this kind of like powerful women thing. And it is quite sad to watch some of that being rolled back now that I'm a grumpy old middle-aged lady. It's kind of, you think, do we take all these little steps forward just to take some back? And are we getting a little bit further forward every time? Or are we just sliding back to where we started?
I don't know. And then that brings you back to mothers, I think, as well, and fathers, that it's really important that we bring up the next generation to think for themselves and to have bodily autonomy in every sense, from consent to health, and to understand the mental health and just that you have the power to say no or yes. You don't have to do everything the way it's always been done. And I think there is such a move with the Gen Z culture, population, even generation, who are, so many are rejecting. And I think maybe that's why we are going backwards a bit, because people are seeing these young people going, no, I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't want to have the same job for the rest of my life. I don't want to work and then retire. I'm worried about the planet. I don't want to get married. I don't want a baby. They're saying, they're actually, and that's quite scary, isn't it, to some people?
Threatens the status quo.
But we won't be, the people that are so worried probably won't be around when they're all 40 anyway. Like it does.
No.
Let's just, we are evolving. And I think that's quite exciting, but it does rely on parents as well, empowering their kids that you can, So when, back to my daughter and Macbeth and getting all cross about it, I was a bit like, well, first of all, I was like, yes, you're quoting Macbeth and your GCSE is in like 5 minutes. But great, you're reading something at school and you're equating it to modern life and how wrong it is. And so, positives.
And again, critical analysis of headlines and stories is important, because the numbers behind those statistics, sometimes the headline statistics are quite often very different to what the headline is trying to tell you.
Yes, because to be fair, when I saw it, first of all, after I got over my annoyance, was, I'm presuming it's like 90% as well. I mean, so it's less than half still.
Yeah.
It is on the rise for a number, and then you have to ask yourself, why is it on the rise? And are these the
And then you can dig
reasons?
into it.
Exactly. So
you can dig into it and you can see that a reason is a trend towards women having children later, or that kind of thing.
Exactly. So too posh to push. What a load of tosh.
Yeah. I don't think I have an answer to this one, apart from it's nonsense.
Yeah, agree.
Last thing we were going to talk about today is, yesterday I saw the OED Word of the Year has come out. The Oxford English Dictionary has named rage bait as its word of the year. I think last year it was brain rot, which is, fine. And goblin mode has also been one of their words of the year, that's when you're like, I'm going to hunker down. I think that was like a post-pandemic. But this year, rage bait. So let's talk about rage bait.
What is rage bait, Jen?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Rage bait. So rage bait is a social media internet kind of term, I guess. It's like when the headlines are specifically designed to make you angry, or people put content out there that they know is going to make people angry and will therefore bait people into engaging with their content, because the platforms that you're on will pay for engagement for a lot of these people, and they don't care whether it's people telling you how lovely you are or that you're an idiot. So you can bait people in by making them angry and they feel like they have to comment, and that would be a rage bait thing.
Yeah.
I have to confess to occasionally falling into that trap a little bit myself. So when I put together the reels for this podcast, sometimes you can pick like a phrase out of context and you go, that sounds really bad out of context. What if that makes people really, really, really angry? And I always try and put a little bit of the context in. But it is so tempting to use the controversial bits that you know are gonna like pull people in a little bit, whether it's positive, or negative, that they feel like that they want to engage with it. And I think it can be a bad thing, but it's also,
Marketing.
yeah, exactly. You want to engage people, and if that's the only thing that's
Whoa.
engaging people at the moment, what's the answer?
I am not a fan. And I think it's because people argue with me on my content, whatever my content is. And as much as I'd like to say I've got a thick skin, it does affect me. And I can get thousands of comments regularly. I get thousands of comments. And when they're nasty or cross or angry or frustrated, it affects me. And so, I sometimes think I could do that a bit more to draw debate, but I hate it. Like, I've actually got a post at the moment and everyone's arguing on it, and I just don't, I kind of can't deal with it. I've also noticed there's a rise of people making content that's incorrect. There's one at the moment going round that says New Year's Day will be the first day in like forever, where it'll be the first of the first of the first, which obviously is wrong because it's the first of the first of 26. So, of course, there's thousands of people going, you're wrong. And they know they're wrong. And then I think, is this really where we've got to? We're creating content that is so obviously wrong so that people tell us we're wrong, and we get loads of clicks and comments. It's like, really? Really? That fills me with rage.
Yeah, so it's working.
Yeah, but I don't answer. I don't comment because they want me to comment. They want me to say you're wrong, and I can see through it, and it drives me crazy. So I don't like it. I like my content to be correct, but I also don't want division. Like, I don't like it.
No, I have to say I don't either. There was, particularly back in my blogging days, there were times that I wrote articles that people disagreed with, and I'm not like, I don't mind a bit of disagreement, but there was, I think I wrote one about vintage feminism once, and I'm almost loath to bring it up now on the basis that it upset me so much. The arguments about a lot of it I wouldn't say now if I were to write the article again. Just going to say this is like 15 years ago probably. But there were a lot of arguments, and people got quite angry in the comments, and then they took to Twitter at the time, slagging off the article, and I got really, really, really upset.
Yeah.
However, sometimes I think if you've put something controversial out there, it's less upsetting when people find it controversial. Whereas I wasn't trying to be controversial when I wrote that thing, and I completely innocently put it out there, not realizing that it was going to make a lot of people kind of angry, and therefore it upset me. There was another one once where people had to go at me because I wrote an article about things to keep from Christmas, and one of them was kind of eating good stuff, like buying the nice cheese rather than the low-fat cheese. And I kind of said something like, happy people don't like comfort eat an entire family-sized pizza and a bar of chocolate. Treat yourself to these things all the time rather than like binging on things. And someone got very angry with me and decided that I was fat-shaming the world, which was never my intention at all, certainly not. And again, I got really, really upset because I felt like I'd been misunderstood.
So maybe what you're saying is rage baiting works when you're doing it on purpose. So, for example, on every Saturday we put out a nostalgia reel. So it's food from the 70s or whatever. And first of all, we can't put every single food from the 70s into the reel. But I often miss out stuff because, I've forgotten about it or whatever. And I always write at the end, what did I miss? And then I get lots and lots of comments telling me all the things I missed. And sometimes I'm like, I should have put that in. But then it's like, no. The fact that I've missed out things is a really good idea because people comment. I've got one at the moment, which is alcohol we used to love back in the day. And there are some that I missed out. Well, there's loads I missed out. I've got I've got hundreds and hundreds of comments. So in a way, I'm kind of baiting, not rage baiting, but I am baiting. I know that you're going to give me answers, but I think that's clever marketing. I think baiting is, but rage baiting feels very 2025. And, the whole, hot take. Oh no, what do they say on Threads? Unpopular opinion. You might think this is an unpopular opinion, but then they say their thing, which is an unpopular opinion, which will be something like women should pay for period products. or, something's good for you that we know is not, or something, and they know it's gonna, and if you have to start a tweet or whatever with unpopular opinion, then you're age baiting.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, I'm sorry, I'm just a big pause here while I put my thoughts together into a coherent sentence rather than rambling. I prefer to have positive engagement. And I think that was one of the things that I've always liked about social media and both of us have made this an aspect of our jobs in some way, creating a community and engaging people in conversation. But I think that I always prefer it to be positive. I want to encourage people to say, oh, I've never thought about things that way, or I've never looked at it like that. And I think it's a kind of demonstration. Rage bait is kind of a demonstration of the way internet and social media culture seems to be going, where people just want to be angry all the time. And that was one of the reasons that I stopped using Twitter or X or whatever it's called years ago, is because it seemed to be just full of people trying to find something to be angry about. And every time you made some kind of innocent statement, people would get angry with you about it. And that's one of the reasons I stopped using Twitter long before it became X. So is Instagram going the same way now? Is TikTok going the same way? Is that rage baiting? Is it just because of the kind of oversaturation of these platforms?
But then I think you can align it to the media as a whole. So, we've talked about Too Posh to Push. That made me so angry. I talked about it on my podcast. They have rage baited me. Surely. Well, then
Yeah.
again, the tabloid press, they love doing that. So it's not really a new thing. The tabloids have been doing it forever and a day. But I think it's a sign of where we're coming to. And it would be amazing if the word for the following year, 2027, is a little bit more positive. Because if rage baiting is the word of the year, yes, we are, or society, people are rage baiting. But by making it the word of the year, I feel like we're almost celebrating it a bit. So that brings me nicely on to the other word of the year that I think was the Cambridge Dictionary, which is parasocial, which I think you've just got the definition up, but basically when you are obsessed with a celebrity.
Yeah, it's like a one-sided relationship. I think I looked it up. Parasocial denotes a relationship characterized by a one-sided, unreciprocated sense of intimacy felt by a fan or follower for a well-known or prominent figure, typically a media celebrity. So basically, is it like pre-stalker?
But it's funny that, again, so it's been given a new name, parasocial. It was a stan, which is obviously after the Eminem song Stan, where it's a super obsessed fan, stroke stalker. It now has a new name, so that's great. We need more words. Social. So I think we should end this podcast by asking or working out, if you were to have a parasocial relationship with anybody, or maybe you do, who would it be? And why?
See, it's basically that someone that they are basically entirely unaware of your existence.
Well, yeah,
But
so a celebrity.
But you think they're your friend. Who's my imaginary friend then? Is that essentially what we're asking? Imaginary friend that actually exists.
That's famous.
Yeah. I don't know.
Now. No, I don't know now either.
No, I'm safe. I'm safe from random obsessions.
I get quite obsessive, but not in I think they're my friend. Like it might be a band or a singer but this whole they're my friend. That's weird, isn't it?
It's interesting because I feel like it probably happens quite a lot with social media again, because it's another kind of social media term, isn't it? Because you see these things of people's real lives, I mean, I don't follow an awful lot of celebrities. Victoria Beckham is one of the ones that I do follow. But, when you're like, oh, this is, you're seeing them sat on the sofa watching TV or something like that. And, or was it, I think she put a video up of David Beckham hunting around in the bushes for a dog poo, or do you know what I mean? And you're seeing that real life rather than that polished media personality. That's where that line gets blurred, isn't it? And you start to be a bit more like, oh yeah, well, the other day this celebrity said this, and maybe you do have a parasocial relationship. Maybe you're unaware of it when it's a parasocial relationship.
I think you maybe talk about them in that way. So, did you see, David Beckham was pouring his honey out and he's got honey now. For example, and you talk about them as if they're your friends, but you just follow them on social. And as you said, because they share their lives, you feel that you know them more than you would have done 20 years ago when you only like read an interview in the paper or whatever. So you kind of talk about them in that way,
Mm.
which makes you sound like slightly deluded because as if you were there when he was doing his beekeeping, for example.
Is he keeping bees, or did you just make that up?
No, 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 he doesn't. I have a parasocial relationship with David Beckham, and he likes
Okay.
growing vegetables. He grows vegetables. He does beekeeping. Victoria actually made a video of him pouring his first lot of honey and said it's David's sticky stuff, and it went viral, obviously. But I'm
But
now talking about it like I know
your friend Victoria.
my friend Victoria because I follow her too, and I follow the children too. So yeah, they're like my friends. Yeah.
You have that insight into their life, and you know where they do their shopping. You must be
Well,
friends.
and they live near. They live in Hertfordshire, so they don't live so far. And so, yeah, I have a parasocial relationship with David
Yeah,
Beckham.
so that is your parasocial relationship then.
But that actually does sum it up, doesn't it? It's that knowing and seeing and talking about them. Like I could just then talk about um them as if they were like friends of mine.
Yeah. But I think it's a very easy line to blur as well with influencers. We're back on them again. Is that thing where they're kind of just normal people, especially people that don't have that kind of glossy influencer persona, what people that are a bit more kind of messy. Like, I guess it's easy to kind of fall into that trap of being like, oh, we were talking about this the other day, and actually you weren't talking about this. There was,
Yeah. And I think I have this, obviously, I've got a big community, and a lot of them think of me as their friend. And obviously, that's what you want. It's a community. But then
yeah,
people talk to me like they know me. So I shared, my husband made a fish pie the other day, and I posted it on, look, he's made a fish pie. And somebody sent me a message saying, well, my fish pie is better than your husband's fish pie. And I was a bit like, "What? Have you tasted my husband's fish pie? Like, he cook it for you?" And I know and then she was like, "Well, I use Jamie Oliver's recipe, and that's better than your husband's fish pie." And I was like, "What?" But
okay.
I don't think it came from any place. I mean, it's not obviously the biggest issue in the world, but it was just the way she was talking to me, like she was round last week and had the fish pie, And it's that kind of, but I want people to think that they know me. Do you know what I mean? Because you're creating that kind of community, but then they talk to me like they literally were around last week, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm
But
confused.
see, is
Who
I've
are
got
you?
this because I've been on the internet for so many years. I absolutely love it when I post stuff now and people say to me, "Oh, I've been following you since kind of retro chick years." Like, back in like the early 2010s, I've got the same thing where I've got this like a much smaller group, but a group of people who followed me for years and years and years. But I recognize a lot of their names when they communicate and they leave comments and things like that. But they know a lot more about my life than I know about their life because they're not terrible chronic oversharers on the internet. I guess that is that kind of one-sided relationship. It's not necessarily that it's deluded.
No.
Like these people I recognize. However, I don't see their entire lives. And, I might recognize their name when they comment or a profile picture when they comment a lot because they've been part of my life for like
Mm,
50 years or whatever. But they might recognize me in the street and I wouldn't. So our relationship is probably more one-sided
yeah.
because I'm the one that's the chronic oversharer and insists on posting photographs of myself drinking coffee every morning. Whereas they probably post a photograph on Instagram once a year or something like that. So
Yeah.
you don't get that reciprocity, word of the day,
Ooh.
of the
I think
relationship. I'm proud of that. I'm taking that with me for New Year's Eve using reciprocity in a sentence.
I think you're right. And even I'll talk about somebody I know on the internet. So I don't know them. They're not my friend. They're my internet friend. And they might not even be my internet friend. They might be somebody I follow. But I will say, oh, my friend, or, I don't know. You sort of refer to them and then you have to say, well, no, well, they're not my friend. They're somebody that I talk to
Yeah.
occasionally on Instagram.
Yeah.
They're not my
They
friend.
probably have no idea who I am, really.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, I think
parasocial.
so. Maybe a parasocial relationship, maybe it's just a new form of relationships that we are forming in the internet age, where rather than it being nearly stalker or stan or something, maybe it's more benign than that. That it is just that thing where, you've got that insight into people's lives and it's more of a like kind of benign rather than negative. So it can be a positive impact in people's lives to have these parasocial relationships, as long as they don't tip over into Dan.
Yeah, and as long as you're not having a parasocial relationship with somebody that rage baits. Because then it just would be an arguing relationship. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be a positive relationship.
Yeah. Okay, that's the energy I am bringing into 2026.
Absolutely.
Positive relationships.
No laboo-boos,
No laboo-boos.
no Brazilian
No
butt lifts.
Stanley cups.
Brilliant. Well, I will see you next week, and we will be chatting about some more things that have pushed our buttons and rage baited us to chat about. See you then.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And thank you for joining us for another roundup of midlife chat, hot takes, and occasional moaning. Well, quite a bit of moaning.
Make sure you hit subscribe so your podcast app gently nudges you every Friday, because honestly, who remembers anything without a reminder this day? And also, we like people liking us because we're very needy.
And if you fancy being extra lovely, leave us a rating or a review. It helps more brilliant women like you find us. Have a great weekend, everyone, and make sure you find time for yourself. You deserve it.